Did you know that St. Luke's University Health Network, based in the Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, has been recognized by the U.S. government as the highest performing health system in the United States for quality? You heard right. St. Luke's #1 recognition affirms our status as the top leader among the most respected healthcare providers in the nation, including Houston Methodist and the Mayo Clinic. To state it simply, if you want to receive the best care when you go to a hospital, come to St. Luke's.
My brother of 48 years, the amazing defense attorney Joseph Tacopina, represented President Trump in that E. Jean Carroll case, and all the prosecution wanted was rape. That's it. That's all they wanted. And Joe did such a great job. They didn't get it. Now, look, when you sit down in front of a jury in the box there, they have like a list. Literally, there's a list. And if you don't get the first charge, which is what they always want, there's a number 2, or number 3, and number 4. So they picked a different charge. Okay. He wasn't going to walk out unscathed, not in a New York court with that jury and judge, Kaplan. He knew that. But the rape charge, that's gone. You can't call Trump a rapist. When you do that, like George Stephanopoulos, you got to pay Trump $15 million. Thank you, Nancy Mace. And that was because of Tacopina's hard work. So now this E. Jean Carroll sued him civilly, I guess, and $83 million. And the judge said, nah, you're not getting paid that because you're a liar. So I had to play that, Joe, because A, the guy was really funny, but B, I just want to give you the credit because you can never call President Trump a rapist because of you.
That's right. And they tried. I mean, E. Jean Carroll said in her testimony 52 times the word rape. In their closing argument, E. Jean Carroll's attorneys used the rape word 33 times. Okay, so rape was the whole theme of this trial. And you had a New York jury who, at the time, President Trump was not popular in New York and probably still isn't, right? So it was a really difficult, battle. And then you had a judge who was a Clinton appointee who clearly hated President Trump. He made it clear. I mean, there was no ifs, ands, or buts about it, right? So it was one of the most stacked courtroom proceedings I've ever been involved in. And we still beat the rape because, honestly, if you look at the cross-examination that I did of E. Jean Carroll, we annihilated her credibility. And at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. So, yeah, the jury gave her some lesser included, some sexual abuses.
It's on the list. They had to pick something.
Right. And defamation. And don't forget, by the way, the $83 million was not for rape. There was no rape, right? It was for defamation. That was the second trial. I didn't try that. Alina Habba did. That was an $83 million award for defamation, for political rhetoric that was always going to face intense constitutional scrutiny. I never knew that. I never thought $83 million was going to stand up. Listen, here's how bad that was. They asked for $24 million to the jury. Okay? The jury came back and said, nah, we're not going to give you $24 million. We'll give you $83 million. I've never heard of that in my life.
It's crazy.
Where a jury came back and basically, gave 3 plus X of what the plaintiff was asking for in damages.
Well, that's New York. So, that reminds me of like Letitia James in that case. I know you didn't do that when you did the Alvin Bragg case, but same type of thing. Like in New York, they keep raising the money to ridiculous numbers.
Yeah, look, that's what appellate courts are for, though, Sid, right? To stop this politically and emotionally charged verdicts from steamrolling fundamental fairness and constitutional protections. Look, you can't have a justice system where emotion replaces evidence and punishment replaces proportionality. The First Amendment doesn't disappear because the defendant's name is Donald Trump. And understand what he was clipped for $83 million for denying an allegation of rape. Okay? That was the defamation. So it was insane to me that this verdict was given. And again, this was not my trial, but it was sickening and it was hard to watch. But look, to me, the verdict looked more like social, really from the jury's standpoint, like a societal punishment than measured legal compensation, really. And that's what American appeals courts are for. When trials risk becoming emotional spectacles instead of disciplined legal proceedings, appellate courts are supposed to step in and say, nah, not so fast. That's not going to happen here.
It's funny. I was thinking about you this morning. I remember, for some reason, I was at the doctor, maybe with Ava and Danielle, in New Jersey. And I was standing in the parking lot, and they wanted to leave. And I was talking to you. And it was when Trump was campaigning. right? And we were talking about, oh, my God, the Bragg trial is out there. The James trial is out there. Here's this clown Smith who's, suing him in just about every blue state across the country. Eugene Carroll is out there. And we're trying to figure out not only how he's going to win, but how he's going to stay out of jail. I mean, that was a concern for some attorneys at one point. I never thought that would be the case, but it was a concern. You look back at those conversations, Joseph, and what these animals really tried to do and where he is today. Pretty remarkable, yes?
No, it's beyond. He's extraterrestrial. Like, seriously. Like, he has 9 lives. Look, he got indicted 4 times. Not charged, not sued, indicted, Sid, 4 times in 1 year. As I said to you in the past, give me the 4 most notorious criminals in history. John Dillinger, Pablo Escobar,
Gotti. John Gotti.
Any of them. None of them were indicted 4 times in total.
I don't think even Pablo Escobar, I don't think any of them were even indicted more than once. Maybe John Gotti, that's it.
But 4 times in 1 year. I mean, again, that's why we really have to be careful. And I've always said this when I was representing the president. I was on, your show in the morning, Hannity at night, Mark Levin, all these different shows. Right? The legal principles here affect every American. Forget whether you're blue or you're red. If constitutional safeguards erode for one unpopular defendant, if he's not your candidate of choice, they erode for everyone. And that's what was so scary to me, to watch all that stuff go down. I mean, indictments that were based on, the Bragg case, that indictment, that Stormy Daniels nonsense was seriously the most convoluted criminal case I've ever seen that was based on no criminal conduct. And somehow still a jury came back and convicted him of 34 counts. It was unbelievable to me. I mean, he did not. There was nothing that was done wrong there. I promise you. It was a personal civil settlement with personal money, not campaign funds. Not if he paid with that money with campaign funds, they would be baying for his scalp. That would be a campaign finance crime. But he did nothing wrong, and yet still they were bringing charges left and right against him. And look where he is. It's something else. But look, again, this is. The appeals court's action here today or yesterday with President Trump reinforces that basic principle that these massive verdicts in these politically charged cases must still comply with the constitutional protections, proportionality, and fairness, right? And that's not politics. That's the rule of law. So he's going to be fine. I knew he was going to be fine. I didn't ever think he was paying that $83 million. And if someone else wants to call him a rapist again, they could pay $15 million also. But it's fine.
Yeah, they will do it. They don't care. They're psychos. It's happened 2 or 3 times, not just Stephanopoulos, where they just don't care. Then they'll call him 10 times during one segment.
Stupid. They're just.
I know.
Stupid.
I know.
I mean, look, they wanted more than anything in the world to be able to say President Trump is a rapist. They wanted that red ink end of the world headline on every page, right? Because they can't do it. They can't do it, baby. It's on.
You better text him this morning. I know actually he's on the plane right now coming back from China with Hannity and Crowley and all those people. So I said to myself and to you, we had this conversation too, it'd only be right if Joe Tacopina, the greatest defense attorney in the world, represented Trump. Now he's got to do Bibi, right? Because despite all the hate that goes around, because we are surrounded by vicious anti-Semites, and the best is when they try to tell you they're not. I love that. Vicious anti-Semites surrounded by him. So here's Tacopina running to the rescue. Hey, I got 2 trials for Trump. I won them both. And here comes Bibi. This one is really special. So the New York Times, this guy Christoph, who's actually won 2 Pulitzer Prize awards, okay? This is not some rookie. This is not some kid just starting out. This is a world-renowned, award-winning writer for the New York Times, which at this point is like Dr. Seuss. It's all fiction. And he writes this story. You can't make this up. This is when you know how sick people are. That the Israelis are training dogs. Listen carefully, folks, okay? Some of you anti-Semites out there. The Israelis are training dogs to rape Palestinians. Yeah. That's the story. And this idiot Christoph, so Bibi says, I'm so happy about this, we're going to sue the pants off the New York Times, me, Israel, and to me, based upon your great success with Trump and everybody else, you win every time, you'd be the perfect attorney for Bibi in Israel.
Oh, I would love this case, Sid. I would love this case because if you're going to accuse the army of a Democratic ally of systematic rape, torture, barbarism, you better have evidence beyond politically charged anecdotes, because that's all they have here. The Times really lost their mind here. They crossed the line from aggressive journalism into actionable defamation. It's defamation. And the lawsuit is just not an attack on free speech. It's the demand for accountability. And this has to be brought. It has to be brought because, they clearly didn't investigate anything. And let me tell you something. The more explosive the accusation, the higher the journalistic duty is to verify it. Okay? That's the law. So you're not talking about an ordinary criticism of military policy. You're not talking about accusations that the Israeli soldiers were rough in handling the prisoners. You're talking about accusations that Israeli soldiers trained dogs to sexually assault prisoners and engage in systematic rape. Those allegations are so shocking, right, and reputation destroying that any weakness in sourcing becomes a major problem for the New York Times. And I'll tell you something. They are going to have a problem here because, I will tell you, there's a standard called actual malice or reckless disregard. From my understanding, their source is someone who basically had a bias. It was aligned with the Palestinians,
of course,
right? And there was no evidence. He just said something as a source. Okay. They bet you have to, when you have an allegation of this nature, you have to verify it once, twice, and 3 times over. So, I swear, this New York Times is in trouble. When I first looked at these facts and these allegations, I was astonished. I really was astonished.
Oh, it's unreal.
And then you look at the timing of it. The timing of it was also weird, right? I think that matters politically and legally, that the Israeli officers, that the piece was really published right before reports detailing the Hamas sexual atrocities from October 7th.
That's right.
Allegedly creating a false moral equivalence between Hamas terrorists and Israeli soldiers.
That's right. And the Hamas story was that Hamas actually made their hostages, family members, have sex with each other. That one, I believe, not so much the dogs. But let me give you some history, Joseph. I know you know this, but for the audience out there. During Nazi Germany, the Holocaust, World War II, the New York Times, the great New York Times, they did a lot of stories on World War II. About 2 on the Jews being exterminated. About 2. That's about it. Then years ago, I'll tell you, Joseph, when I started to become a legitimate news guy, because I really wasn't. I came here as a sports guy. I was going to the gym one afternoon, and I got a call from Dove Hikind, or I forget who it was. Yeah. And they said, listen, we're having a rally outside the New York Times building. We want you to come and speak. So I go to Danielle. This is years ago. I go, I got to go to the gym. She goes, Sydney. Why? Why are they having a rally? Well, because there was a cartoon in the New York Times that depicted Donald Trump and Bibi Netanyahu, but Trump was walking Bibi, it may have been vice versa, as a dog. Literally on 4 legs with a leash. So they were calling the president and Bibi like they're walking a dog, which is really, really sick and twisted and anti-Semitic. She said, Sydney, you can't go to the gym. They asked you to come. I said, Dee, come on, man. I'm tired. Okay, fine. I fought with her for a while, and I went. And it turned out to be a great event. Dov Hikind was there, like I said. That's where I met Alan Dershowitz and many other Jewish fighters. And that was kind of the beginning of when people started to take me seriously as a voice for the Jewish community. I got to thank Danielle for making me go that day. But this dates back, Joseph, 7-8 years ago. Anti-Semitic cartoons. And again, back to Nazi Germany. Not even talking about the Jews. 6 million being exterminated. So this is nothing new. The New York Times has always been a treasure for the anti-Semite.
Yeah, and well, I'll tell you, whatever line they crossed here, it's unimaginable. The New York Times took one of the oldest anti-Semitic smears in history, that blood libel smear, and repackaged it as modern journalism. And when you accuse soldiers of barbaric sexual crimes without airtight proof, and I mean airtight proof, you're not informing the public, you're inflaming the world. And so this wasn't some, again, nuanced policy critique. This was reputational napalm dropped on Israel and the Jewish people. And this has to be accounted for. And they have to be responsible for what they did here because the allegations are false and they were published recklessly. The damage is irreversible. You can't unring this bell. And the Times knew exactly what global reaction to these accusations would trigger. Okay? And they published them anyway. So I am ready. I'm willing and able because I think this case is going to be a slam dunk. And it's an important case in history because it really has to put the media back into a place where journalistic integrity matters, Okay, and this is so important. It's not just being opinionated. This is not opinion. This was factual reporting. So I hard to believe, but honestly, this is something that this is a moral demonization masquerading as reporting, and I can't take it. So if you're going to accuse, I'll say this in parting and to Bibi Netanyahu, if you're going to accuse Israeli soldiers of medieval style atrocities, you better have evidence beyond activism, outrage, or these anonymous narratives. Because once those accusations hit the front page of the New York Times, the damage to Israel and the Jews worldwide is imminent and permanent. And Sid, I'm ready to take their heads off.
Oh, my God, I'm so proud of you. I thought I couldn't love you any more than I did, but now I love you even more. And I'm sending this tape, just so you know, to David Mencier today. He works with Bibi every day. I'm going to see Bibi in Israel in a couple of weeks. We're speaking at the same summit on June 18th. But I'm sending this tape to Bibi because I want him to win. I want the New York Times to finally get their asses kicked. And there's no better attorney in the world than you. So this is, this makes me excited, to be honest. I'm looking forward to getting this done. And, you talk about they got to prove this stuff. One last thing. Hamas, for all these Tucker Carlson morons out there, Hamas, you know what they do? They set up their headquarters. I mean, pay attention. You know this, okay? They set up their headquarters in nursery schools. They set up their headquarters in hospitals. They set up their headquarters in places where the last thing you want to see is anybody die. And why do they do that? A, because they think they're faking out the Israelis, but we've got great intelligence. And B, because when Israel drops a bomb on a hospital, and yes, some Palestinian civilians will die, that's where Hamas is. So then they can tell the world that the Israelis are genocidal and they're killing innocent people. We're not. We never have. So that is the other narrative that the world has gladly accepted. They run with it. They love it. Because, again, it has become very, very chic to hate the Jewish people all over the world, especially Bibi. But they purposely set up in these venues so Israel looks like they're out killing people in a hospital. No, they're not, you dumb bastards. You know this, right?
Of course, absolutely. I mean, look, it's so. This is war. And when the terrorists, because Hamas isn't a group of warfighters, they're terrorists, right? When they disguise themselves as civilians, or they infiltrate civilian areas to hide there, they're the ones who are putting civilians at risk. They're the ones who are doing it. So I mean, it's outrageous. And yes, the critics who attack Israel for that are so one-sided and clearly anti-Israel. You want to call them anti-Semites? I mean, I don't know, but I mean, it's just unbelievable, and it's really again back to this case. I'm flabbergasted by it. Sid, I've read that article twice. Okay, that was published, and I cannot believe that was written. I can't believe that not one editor at the New York Times said, "Hold on a second.
Yeah.
Hold on a second.
Yep.
Do we have verifiable evidence?" Because when you have an extraordinary accusation, an explosive accusation that's going to ricochet around the world, you must have extraordinary verification. And especially in a war fueled by propaganda.
Yep.
And the fact that they didn't is to me, it's a game, set, and match. And
Okay,
the
good.
New York Times were coming.
Good. I'm dead serious when I tell you that, I know everybody in and around Bibi and Bibi. So I'm going to make it their business to know that you want to do this because there's no better attorney in the world, not just the United States. So we'll get on this, and you'll save Trump and Bibi and Israel all in a couple of years. That's pretty good work, Joe. You'll be happy to hear this on the way out. I am going to the Met Yankee game tonight, but I'm sitting with Met owner Steve Cohen in his suite. He invited me, and we're going to talk about some things, how I think the Mets can improve their public image because they have some issues. Whether you like it or not, they do. So I am going to the house that Mookie built later on tonight to see the Mets and Yankees.
Thank you. Come back. Please come back to the good side. I mean, look, there's enough Yankee fans out there because it's so easy to be a Yankee fan, right?
Yeah.
The evil empire.
Yeah.
I mean, they throw money. The Met fans, you build character, and I told you this. As being a Met fan, we developed the ability to lose and still move on. And that's what being a Met fan is all about. So
it's life.
That's
right.
why we have two great young kids in that outfield now, that Binge and that new kid Ewan.
Yeah, they're great.
That's fun. That's exciting stuff.
No, they're great.
And McLean, come on.
Yeah, no, listen. And Steve Cohen's a lovely guy. I have nothing but nice things to say about Steven, but I'm never coming back. No, I'm done. I'm Randy Levine's guy now. That's
I
it.
will fist fight you.
You
I
will?
swear to God.
Well,
Yes.
I just saw you on FaceTime yesterday. I don't think I can take you, bro. I don't think I can. You are one big guy, man. You look great. You got muscles on top of muscles on top of muscles. But you were great here today. See, you don't have to beat up everybody. Sometimes you can just speak because you're an attorney. Verbally defeat people. You're great at that, too. So thank you for this great appearance. And we'll get working on BB this morning, buddy. I love you. Thank you so much.
Okay, brother. Let's go.
Nice job, Joseph. Joseph Tacopina right there on this show every Friday. One of the more popular segments on Sid and Friends in the Morning. And, of course, you know why.
Thanks for listening to Sid and Friends in the Morning. You can hear Sid and Friends in the Morning weekday mornings at 6. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?